Justin Hawkins ride. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm a fan though, man. I'm a fan of your show. All right. Well, hello to you, my fine feathered freaks and fiends and friends. Yeah, welcome to the podcast. So today I'm going to talk about the origin story behind my personal superhero, now behind my artist name. I realize, first of all, that my artist name is probably the worst possible name to have in our current socio-political environment. And I realize the best possible thing that I could do is to change it immediately. But I'm going to explain why I love it and why I'm going to keep it and why, I hope people will come around. Let's get straight to it. The first thing I know that people think of when they see, DVNT is deviant, to anyone who didn't get that yet. But of course, people kind of go to a basic bitch scenario. And I'm sorry that most of our population are basic bitches. I'm very sorry for you. I feel bad for you. And they kind of just go to that lurid, basic idea. Oh, deviant. Oh, sexual deviant. But I hate to disappoint you. It has nothing to do with that. And everything, I'll tell the whole story, but to get straight to the point, everything to do that I consider myself and have been diagnosed as being neurodivergent, which is a nicer way to say on the spectrum. That's a nicer way than saying a certain term that South Park used, and probably the worst word to use for someone who has a disability, depending on your point of view. Now, there's been, I'd say, an uprising of autists, of people who are on the spectrum, whether it's Elon Musk or, Mark Zuckerberg has not announced that he's on the spectrum, but it's pretty fucking obvious. If you think about it, almost all of these multi-billionaires are probably on the spectrum. Jeff Bezos, all these guys. Bill Gates, 100%. Actually, I think Bill Gates has admitted it. Elon Musk has admitted it. Mark Zuckerberg, whatever, man. Mark Zuckerberg's got a lot of other problems besides being on the spectrum. Tim Burton is someone that I personally aspire towards more than any of those guys. Greta Thunberg, I'm sorry if I'm massacring your name. It's not meant as a disrespect. I that's as close as I'm going to get. And there's been a lot of people who've been really harsh towards some of these people. Of course, understandably, a lot of them are part of a capitalist society and have more money than you'll ever see in your lifetime. But Bill Gates has been giving away most of his money lately. I think that he made I don't know, maybe it's just a PR stunt. I have no fucking idea. That's not my business. I don't care. But specifically Greta, again, am I saying that I agree with her politics? I don't agree with the current state of being left wing. I don't agree with the current state of being right wing. I don't agree with either wing. Guess what? The two wings are part of the same bird. So, to the extent that I just don't agree with a lot of things that are happening in the United States, and to the extent that I put my money where my mouth is and I left, I don't live in the United States anymore. But this is not about Greta or her politics, but people were pretty harsh with her. Even when she made it very evident that she called it her superpower, that she is on the spectrum. Now, I don't agree with that. I definitely don't agree that it's a superpower. I've gone from when I was much younger, I was a non-functioning, they say high functioning. I don't know, what do they say, low functioning or non-functioning? But I was basically non-functioning autist. I could barely even speak to people. So I was in very bad shape when I was younger. And then over time, also, experts will say, oh, you're this, you're always going to be that. Oh, you're manic depressive, you're always going to be manic depressive. Oh, you're this, you're always going to be this. Um, but I can tell you, I went from a non-functioning person to, I guess, what you'd call high functioning or, borderline normal. In any case, being as bad as I was when I was younger to where I was like, even, I mean, I'm still light sensitive, but I mean, super light sensitive, like where the daylight would just hurt my eyes or like fluorescent lights just, would blind me. So I was in really bad shape. And I have other health problems as well. But do I consider it a superpower? Absolutely not. And over time, I have gotten into biohacking. And there's things that I just wish that I could go back and help that guy. I've gotten much better to the point where I'm borderline okay. I'm able to mostly manage my life. But I really needed help when I was younger, and I didn't have it. I came from a family of artists. We had no money. And they were also extremely anti-authoritarian. And for those reasons, my dad didn't believe in doctors or, in any of that. I don't want to give away someone else's story, but I'm not saying this in a negative way, but my dad was committed. He was committed to a mental health facility when he was young, rightly or wrongly. I don't know all the details, honestly. His description from what he had told me, he was basically tortured. So he had every right to be suspicious of any authority figures, to be suspicious of the medical industry, to be suspicious of the mental health industry, certainly. And so, but to my detriment, no one helped me. It was very obvious. Everyone was like, oh, Corey's crazy. Corey's got problems. But there was no one that really, there was no one that ever reached out their hand to help me. And, I still deal with mental health issues. And there's been, I think, a lot of misunderstandings about who I am as a person. And the thing about being on the spectrum is also a lot of times you say things that sound really mean. So it's not like I've always been the victim. I've also been, in some people's mind, I've been like a bully to say things that I didn't intend to be mean, but where I was just very blunt and they took them that I was just being cruel. Elon Musk has gotten in a lot of trouble for that. And you have to consider the source and you have to consider, I don't think Elon Musk is faking his autism or his Asperger's for sympathy. I think he's genuinely on the spectrum. And I'm not looking for sympathy, maybe for some understanding. And a lot of people have hurt me throughout the years through just insensitivity. And when I've always been open about my health issues, I mean, this is not what this podcast is about, but I also have fibromyalgia. So, I mean, in my early 20s, I was basically incapacitated. I was basically bedridden and the most socially awkward person that you'll ever meet. And I felt like, I felt and looked like the Walking Dead, as basically, someone who was existing on the absolute fringe of even being defined as a human being. Like, and that's how I felt. I felt like I was a ghost or like I was an undead person. just walking around like I was barely connected with this reality. So it was definitely difficult. But again, over time, I learned a lot of biohacking secrets, and that's why I'm still alive today. There was a good chance I wasn't going to live. That's the truth. So I'm doing much better now. I'm not where I'd like to be still. But to get back to the point, well, Greta, is it a superpower? No. I mean, I've done everything in my power to biohack myself to what I consider optimum performance, which is not being autistic, honestly. But going back to why I chose my artist name, again, I was in high school. I was very sick. I was the skinniest kid in my school. Like, people would legitimately ask, like, what's wrong, man? They're not feeding you? Or, I feel like if I was in high school today, there might have been an issue. There might have been, I mean, my guidance counselor did call my parents in to say, what the fuck's wrong? But I mean, even to the extent of like, maybe someone would have called social services, because I was really like just deathly skinny and looked very unhealthy. And it was just obvious, and I would sleep all day. I was incapable of staying awake, just absolutely incapable of staying awake. So, of course, the guidance counselor got involved, and she was helpful. But, I feel like today, like, social services might have gotten a call, and maybe I wouldn't have even been able to continue to live with my family. Maybe that would have been better at that time. Maybe it would have been better. I've never even considered that until just now as I say it. In any case, yeah, it's become, I think, much more popular now to say, whatever, I'm bipolar, I'm, on the spectrum, I have this going on, I have that going on. But yeah, I mean, to me, these are not even points of pride. But I do want some understanding. I do want some understanding to just for people to say, okay, all right, I get you a little bit more now. There's a lot of very creative people who are on the spectrum. There's a lot of great businessmen who are on the spectrum. It's been really strange. You think about it, the Industrial Revolution. Let's see, who were the biggest businessmen from the Industrial Revolution? Let's take a look. I should have been more prepared. All right, let's see the biggest businessmen. J.P. Morgan. I assume J.P. Morgan Chase, eh? Andrew Carnegie, John D. Rockefeller, Henry Ford, James Watt, Thomas Edison, John D. Rockefeller. Yeah, that's a big one. Theodore Roosevelt. Anyway, the point being is robber barons. I don't even know what that term means, honestly. Person who becomes rich through ruthless and unscrupulous business practices. Interesting. But I mean, most of these guys, Theodore Roosevelt, John D. Rockefeller, J.P. Morgan, I feel like these guys were like men's man, and they were not in any way on the spectrum. So it's just interesting how that has shifted. Well, I mean, because the Industrial Revolution was really based all on the physical. And then, with the internet and computer revolution, it's all based on something completely different. And a lot of people who are on the spectrum who hyper focus on certain things, because a lot of the less severe symptoms of being on the spectrum manifest as being almost the same as OCD, as being obsessive compulsive, which is what I was diagnosed with when I was a lot younger. So OCD, in a sense, if Greta is talking about any type of superpower, I'd say my only superpower would be that I'm OCD. And that has helped me because I started an SEO business. I started a marketing business to survive. Because again, I came up from a very poor family of artists and I always just wanted to be an artist. But, good luck making a living being an artist in this world. I mean, I've taken a tremendous chance lately, and this is the first time I've announced this in a public forum, but I had a successful business, which I sold. And I now intend at this late stage in my life to just become a creator, and follow my muse full time, which I think is honestly is pretty admirable and is going to be difficult. And I hope that people will support me, you know, give me some super chats. I need to enable that still, but support someone because I come from a family of artists and I've always felt that I was meant to be an artist. And so I'm taking the ultimate chance and have forsaken my corporate life to just pursue a life as an artist. And I believe that I can do it. I do. When there's people like Andrew Wong, there's people even like Justin from The Darkness, now I've never been a fan of The Darkness, but I like his commentary on music. There's a lot of good people on YouTube. So I foresee that I'm going to try to grow my audience on YouTube and try to become known as an artist in the truest sense of an artist. A lot of people, well, I mean, first of all, they laugh at you it's always been an industry thing. If you're over the age of 25 and you haven't made it in music, that forget it. Just go get a job. And maybe that's fair, but I think it's ridiculous. I mean, there's no other art form where we apply that ridiculous criteria. Imagine if you're a painter. We all know that like visual artists, many of them have done their best work, as senior citizens even. So I'm not trying to be a pop star, but I think that I have something valid to offer. And I think that I am a great artist, or I have elements of greatness. One of the things that stops me from being the artist that I want to be is, my health issues, number one. Actually, I'd put health issues even above everything. But again, because I'm able to manage them through biohacking. But, and then secondly is being on the spectrum and being a little bit bipolar. And, but all those things at this point are manageable. So I'm going all in on this creative venture. And I hope that you'll follow me. And I hope that, that I have something to offer because I think that I do, or I wouldn't take this chance. And I love you all. Going back to the point, Rockefeller. What was my point? I think that we have a rise of autistic people into positions of power. Now, maybe that's good for someone like me who considers myself to be on the spectrum. But also, Elon Musk was born into a rich family. Let's be honest. Most of these people were born into rich families. I don't know. I guess Bill Gates wasn't really, was he? But it's just interesting, that shift to these kind of like hardworking, salt of the earth type of guys were the richest people during the Industrial Revolution. And there's just been a major shift to where people who are really kind of socially awkward can now be the most powerful people in the world. I think that's interesting. I think it's not talked about very much, but Bill Gates has admitted to being on the spectrum. Elon Musk has admitted. Mark Zuckerberg has not admitted, but I think it's pretty fucking obvious. I'd say that he is far more on the spectrum than anyone else that I've mentioned. All right, I'm going to switch it up. Put on some headphones. If you watch any of my other content, it's obvious that I'm usually, working as a VTuber or, have this virtual avatar. And I just figure for podcasts, I can just appear as my own pretty self or not so pretty self, depending on your point of view. But yeah, here I am in all my glory. I'm gonna do another podcast about image as it relates to making music and why it's so completely irrelevant. I mean, you think about it, it's an art form that is entirely based on what you hear. And what exactly does that have to do with image? Um, and that's your age, your gender, your none of these things should be relevant to a musical artist. And that image thing is why, like, even shows like American Idol for years, if you were over the age of 25, you weren't allowed to even apply for American Idol. So yeah, there's so much ageism in the music industry, but of course there's sexism. I'm not like, oh, poor me, but there's so much just ridiculousness in the music industry. Like you just have to laugh at it. I mean, what was the quote by Hunter S. Thompson? I'm not going to get it right. And many people say this wasn't about that this is misquoted or he wasn't talking about the music industry. But in a perfect world, I'm going to say that he was. And the quote is, the music business is a cruel and shallow money trench, a long plastic hallway where thieves and pimps run free and good men die like dogs. There's also a negative side. And this is this is what I choose to throw myself to the wolves of the music industry over and over. Maybe I just have a masochistic streak. I don't know. Maybe I'm just into self-sabotage. Oh yeah. Back to the point. I mean, there's many points. Back to one of the points. Why I chose the artist name Deviant. Again, flashback. Me in high school. It's the 90s. To give you some idea. And I was a very sickly boy. I was a very sickly boy with many forms of malaise. I had fibromyalgia, I have sleep apnea. I didn't know all these things then. So I basically was never getting a good night's sleep, which just exacerbated the other issues, exacerbated the fibromyalgia, exacerbated. A lot of these things I think were due to I had those Mercury fillings, what they used to call silver fillings. Thankfully, I'd like to make a podcast about that because it's not completely gone yet. It's not completely gone. It's still being used, much less. But Mercury is basically like the most deadly element known to man. Yes, it's worse than lead. And they're putting it in your mouth, like, which is directly connected to your brain. So do I think a lot of my do I think a lot of my do I think my ability to say neurological is being impeded by this? No, do I think that a lot of my neurological problems were due to the mercury fillings? And I had a lot of them. I remember one time that I accidentally swallowed part of a filling. This stuff's deadly, man. It's much worse even than lead, which was, outlawed from gasoline due to a lot of problems. I mean, really, that should be how that there's not a class action suit that's gone through on mercury fillings is beyond me. I've had them all removed long ago. But, you know, that stuff gets into your body at a cellular level and fucks you up. Do I think that was responsible for like 80% of my problems? Yeah. But, you know, what are you going to fucking do? You got to move on. So going back to my high school days when, yeah, I was just a sickly lad and maybe not mentally in the best place. The thing is, when you feel like shit, your mental state is going to be affected. You know, it's people kind of just put these in two separate categories. It's like, oh yeah, you know, that dude's mentally ill, but he's healthy as a horse. It doesn't really happen that often. Usually, there's something happening on the physical that is you know, bringing on the mental instability as well. Not always. I know some crazy motherfuckers who are as healthy as a horse, but a lot of times those two things are linked. Anyway, back to the point. Me as a sickly lad, physically and mentally. And I remember I went to school and it was first period and I was sleeping through it because I was completely fucking exhausted. Not because I was lazy, because I was completely fucking exhausted. And there was like a Webster's dictionary next to me. And I was suddenly compelled. This is a true story, by the way. I was suddenly compelled to just grab it. It was just off to my left. There's just this bookcase that was immediately to my left. So I didn't have to get up. I literally was sitting in my desk with my head down, feeling like shit, half asleep. And I literally went, grabbed this dictionary, opened it up, and instantly the page that I opened up to was deviant. And at that time, I feel like the definition, I don't know, it was also it was an older dictionary, and this was the 90s. You know, it's probably a dictionary from like the 1970s or something, or even maybe before that. It looked old, I can tell you that. And but I opened up and and I opened up straight to this word, and this is the word that instantly pulled me in. And I was like, that's me. That's me. And again, I don't even remember that there was any mention of anything sexual. If it was kind of on down the line. I mean, even here, you can see that it's not the first thing mentioned, but it basically says strain or deviating, especially from an accepted norm. Someone or something that deviates from the norm. A person who differs markedly, as in social adjustment or behavior, from what is considered normal or acceptable. And then we get into crimes and sexual deviance and all these types of things. But to me, I read it and it was just someone, honestly, who was brave enough to live their own truth and go down the road less traveled. To me, it was a badge of honor. And I was like, that's me. That's me. And I'm fine to be defined as that. Now, of course, again, everyone's going to just jump to sexual deviant. And even still, I'm sure there's people like, well, okay, but are you a sexual deviant? Okay, that's great. But what about the sex? But yeah, again, it was never about that. And if I had named myself deviant, oh, I'm the most sexually deviant. Like, how lame would that be? Yeah, I'm a little bit on the spectrum. Yeah, I'm a little bit socially awkward, but I'm not going to be like, oh, I'm so sexually deviant. No, like, come on, man. No. And to answer that question, I don't know. You know, it's not for me to say. It's not for me to say. That would be for any of my ex-girlfriends or lovers to say. I'm sure some of them might say that, but I've never been into anything illegal or anything that would be really considered sexually deviant. Because again, the word deviant, that's not what it's about for me. It's not what it's about for me. It's about that, just that I'm on my own path and I feel like that's something that would have been more admired in the past. I feel like now there's a lot of people in music who they just want to toe the line. They just want to toe the line of capitalistic greed, being corporate shills, talking about how much money they have. I'm not the first person to say that, but it's just not really. I mean, is that all there is? That's all there is. And I like songs about relationships and love and lost love, and maybe those are cliches, but to me they have a timeless quality about them. And talking about how big your mansion in the Hollywood Hills is, it just doesn't quite have the same timeless quality, does it? Or talking about how many girls you fucked, you know, it's not very interesting. Or even talking about like how great you are in bed. You know, I've been told I've been the best that that person has ever had. But I don't really want to write a song about that. I might throw in like a little bit of innuendos here and there, but I wouldn't. It's just kind of ridiculous. You know, and I mean it's all based on the chemistry between two people. I'm also quite confident that there's some people I've been with who would say I was the worst they ever had. Generally, since we're talking about sex, even though I'm consider myself on the spectrum, and maybe this is an oddity, but I think Elon Musk would match this as well. But I'm much more of a dominant. I'm a much more dominant person. The problem in any bad sex that I've had has been when I try to be with another dominant. If I'm with someone else who considers herself a dominant or himself a dominant. By the way, for me, it's only women, but I'm just trying to be fair. But if I'm with someone who considered herself a dominant, then it becomes kind of like just butting heads in the bedroom. It's no fun. My power sexually has been to get in someone's mind. It's to get in someone's mind and if they're comfortable getting into that subspace. But I'm also not even that into all that, man. There's people who these guys who become like pro doms. If you're going to become a pro dom, you have to shave your head and wear a little vest and just be like all cinched up tight and proper and never fucking smile and never laugh. I mean, I know some people in that scene, but that's my quick 10-second analysis of people who really consider themselves dom. But I tend to be more dominant in the bedroom. And the thing is, like, if I feel submissive, then I can't, it just doesn't work. So of course the sex is going to be bad. Like I can't even get it up if I feel like that, if the woman's trying to dominate me, it doesn't work. So it all depends on, so the women that would say that I've been the best they've ever had, it's because I was able to get in their head, let them be comfortable being submissive, and they were naturally submissive. It wasn't like I forced them. They were naturally submissives sexually. So, do I get into some kinky stuff? Sure. But that's not the point of the name. And I'm not even as into any of that stuff. BDSM. If I talk to people who are really into that scene, they'd consider me pretty fucking vanilla. Here's a point that I like to make. Gay people. It wasn't that long ago that being gay was considered a mental illness. And being gay, you were considered like the biggest deviants that anyone could imagine. They'd have these leather festivals in San Francisco and everyone was letting their freak flags fly. And I was like, that's fucking cool, man. That's cool. I'm not gay, but like, that's fucking cool. I'd like to just have the confidence to just go out in some leather chaps. I wish that I had that confidence. I was like, but that's fucking cool, man. You know, and being gay didn't used to be cool. Growing up, I grew up in the South as well, man. It wasn't cool to be gay. In the deep South, I got relentlessly bullied. On top of like all my health problems and everything else, I was also relentlessly bullied. But that's cool. It's fine. It's all just a learning experience. And did make me stronger. It made me a lot stronger. But it made me also see like the dark side of humanity, There's so much positivity in the world now, even in recent years I've been in situations where I've been judged and and it's by people who are like supposedly part of like even like new age or hippie movements. Even in some of those circles, I've been judged really harshly. And I've just had to see like the ugliness of humanity in so many ways where I can't believe in any of that stuff. I wish that I could. I wish I could just believe in positivity and everything's going to be great. But I mean, when you have a lot of health issues and when you have mental health issues, you just don't believe that everything's always going to be great. But I'm okay with that. I'm mostly okay with that. It does make it difficult in relationships when, someone's like, oh, you need to be positive all the time and you need to be a go-getter and a hustler and fucking whatever, man. But it's not very authentic and it's not my authentic voice. And as an artist, the point I was trying to get to earlier, I think it was a lot more encouraged, even as I was growing up, that a lot of artists were just complete and total freaks. And I feel like it's not so encouraged anymore. It's more about really that you're the cool kid with all the money and that you're fucking the most girls, or like if you are a female artist that you have the best ass, or like just all these pointless things. Just really pointless, man. And is that just me as an older musician, being like, oh, woe is me? I think it's irrelevant. I think it's irrelevant. I think it's just anti-intellectualism in music that doesn't bode well for our civilization, man. It just doesn't bode well. But that's fine. The girls that want to like write songs that are just odes to their own ass, like, you do you. You do you, boo-boo. But yeah, I don't know. There was a lot. I feel there was just like, it was more, even like people like Lane Staley with Alice in Chains. It was just more admired that you came out, or, really Maynard James Keenan, Tool, Nine Inch Nails, all those artists were coming up in the 90s. All artists that I have immense respect for. And it just doesn't seem like it's admired anymore. And I think it should be. I think musicians and artists are always kind of on the fringe, the great artists. And I don't think you're really on the fringe if you're writing a bunch of lyrics about your own ass. That's just my own personal analysis. Oh, back to my point. Back to my point with gay people. I was like, okay, like, you guys let your freak flags fly. I can respect that. But then, like, of course, gay people wanted equal rights, and I 100% support you. And I 100% support anyone. Everyone deserves equal rights in this world. Everyone deserves to be respected. everyone deserves not to be bullied the way that I was, as a teenager. And I mean, really, through most of my life, I've been bullied to some extent. But my point is like gay people fought so hard to just be like, oh no, we're just normal. We're just like your neighbors. I call it the Ellen effect. Like, oh no, I'm just Ellen. I'm completely harmless. And I have nothing against Ellen. I like Ellen. And I think it's kind of fucked up that she was canceled. But I mean, I don't watch her program, but she seems like a nice enough person. But I think what they had going for them, that it was cool that they were considered sexual deviants. Being gay was considered that you had a mental illness not that long ago. That was fucking cool, man. And I think it's kind of like that this whole ideology of like, oh no, I mean, it's not sexy to be just, regular Joe next door. And that's kind of the new gay agenda is really just like, oh, we're just exactly like you. We're just a regular. And I understand, to adopt and all this stuff that it was necessary, but it was a lot. Being gay just seemed a lot sexier when you guys were just like the freaky people in San Francisco, having like leather parades. Then I was like, oh shit, maybe I need to try out this whole gay thing. Now it's like, oh yeah, we're just regular Joes next door. Now it's not even interesting anymore, and it's not sexy. It's a lot more sexy when you guys were considered deviants. But that's just my opinion. But yeah, my name is based on the fact that I'm a neurodivergent, and I've been an outsider. My first band name, too, by the way, was Outcast. But this is before. Maybe it wasn't before, but no one knew who Outcast was at the time. And, I was in rock bands, and it was Outcast with an E, like the caste system in like medieval times. But that was the name of my first band, was Outcast. And now it's Deviant. And I don't know. I could change it to something else, but I like the name. Thank you to anyone who's supported me in my artistic endeavors throughout the years. This is what's important to me. I come from a family of artists. I have tried to be a corporate robot, and it just doesn't work for me anymore. And so I'm taking a huge chance. So I really do need the support as I try to shift into being a creative and hopefully making my parents proud. My dad is gone. My mom is basically gone. So I don't know. I just, if they could have seen me in the future, I want to make them proud. So please support me as a creative. I promise that I will do things that are interesting, that are different. You may not like all of it. I don't believe in staying in one genre. So I know right there, that's going to lose me like half of a fan base. I'm not going to be like AC/DC and write 1,000 AC/DC songs. I'm not going to be, I don't know. I mean, name almost any artist. They kind of just pick a genre and stick to it. That's why I admire Led Zeppelin, man. Say what you want about Led Zeppelin, but man, they just jumped genres and they did it all effortlessly. I like a lot of dark music, industrial music. I've been in like borderline goth bands. Yeah, I know. But, right now I'm working on my version of a reggaeton track. And yeah, I can't roll my R's properly. Sorry. That's just reality. I'm working on, my version of pop tracks. I'm working on my version of funk tracks. And they're all going to be through my own deviant lens. And I'm going to shift them and make them into something that I enjoy. But in a lot of genres that I've worked in the past, whether it's industrial music or heavy metal, you cannot deviate from that genre. you better stay in your lane. If you're in Metallica, you better never put out a ballad, which they did. And a lot of fans hated them after that. If you're in the Red Hot Chili Peppers, then, well, they basically kept making Red Hot Chili Peppers music. You know, they're okay. But especially in like industrial music, goth music, heavy metal music, I've been involved in all these fucking genres. It's punk rock. If you like then go and do a ballad, or if you go and do something that's based in Latin music, God forbid, man, or something that's a pop song, or something that's even upbeat, even Trent Reznor. What was that song? He did a song that was all in a major key and that was pretty positive, and I'm pretty sure he got massacred by his fan base for that. But like, that's being authentic, man. That's being fucking authentic. Maybe not always. I'm sure there's some artists who, maybe even Metallica wrote ballads because they were like, oh, maybe we could make more money writing some ballads. I don't fucking know. I don't really care. But for me, I can promise any of my tracks are going to come from an authentic place. If I write a pop song, I love a lot of pop music. And I also hate a lot of pop music. It's like any other genre, man. I think Dua Lipa is incredibly talented, and I think she's got a good team behind her. For me, I'm doing everything myself. But I still have mad respect for Dua. I have mad respect for The Weeknd. I have a lot of respect for Billie Eilish. There's some people in pop that are doing it right. And there's a lot of people that I don't give a flying fuck about. But, you know, even to pop fans, if I put out a pop song and for some crazy reason it becomes popular, which I honestly believe is a possibility, because I have pop songs that I think ultimately could stand right up there with The Weeknd, or with Bruno Mars, or with Al Green, or with Michael Jackson, or with Gambino. I have pop songs that I think stand with any of those artists. But understand it's coming from an authentic place. And there's pop fans that, if that's what they recognize my music for, that if I then do like a dark industrial or cyberpunk track, they'd be like, what the fuck is this, dude? But it's all authentic, man. I like a lot of different styles of music, and I hate a lot of music too. I mean, I think basically at least 80% of any genre is complete and utter garbage. And then you have like really like, I think it's like 5% are just absolute geniuses in any genre, even country music. I don't fucking listen to country music, but there's some brilliant songwriters in country music. So, yeah, it's going to be a fun ride. It's probably going to be a little bit of a bumpy ride, but I'm excited for a future, and I want to make my family proud ultimately. And I want to make people who've known me, my friends, my ex-friends, my even ex-girlfriends. I'd love for them to see what I'm doing and be proud of what I'm doing. I don't hold a lot of ill will towards almost anyone, except people who intentionally tried to really hurt me or destroy me. And that's happened more than once, more than it should have. And I think it's that people can kind of sense like, oh, there's something different about him. There's something a little bit deviant about him. There's something I can't put my finger on, but unfortunately, if you're a little bit different, some people want to stomp you out. And that's sad. And I think it's important that there's still voices like mine that deserve to be heard. Not just mine. I mean, there's a lot of people that deserve support, but I'm one of them. So I hope you follow me in my journey, and thank you so much for giving me your time. And I hope all is well in your world. And I hope that, I wish the best for everyone. Almost. Well, okay, that's not true. There's a lot of people I don't wish the best for. But most of you, If you're supporting me, then I definitely wish you the best. If you support me, then you're cool. But, all right. Till next time. Peace the fuck out.